Hi guys, happy New Year's Eve. It's about 2 p.m. and I went out for breakfast this morning and lovely Frankies and Bennies. And now I'm home and ready to do my favourite books of 2018 video. It's going to take me a while guys, so really sorry if I ramble on, which I have a habit of doing because I don't script anything. I just kind of talk, but I find that it's the best way for me to do things. So I have a lot of books to talk about guys, so yeah, some of them might be more skim sort of talks about them, some of them might be more like vivid details. It just depends how much I remember about or how much I love that book in particular. They're not going to be in any particular order either. I might mention, say like if I remember when I read them, but things like that, but I think it would be a lot more complicated if I start talking about dates and things like that. But so first of all, in the top of the pile we have Winter Song by S.J.J. Jones. Hopefully it is the right way around when it appears on the screen. But yeah, that's a beautiful cover. I believe I bought this one at Foyles when I went to London one day, and its cover was gorgeous, and basically it's a bit of a Persephone and Hades retelling. If anyone knows the story of the myth behind it, Hades drags Persephone to the underworld where he is the ruler or the king of hell. I mention on here a lot that I talk about Greek myth books and things that are based on it or inspired by it. I write it. I just generally love reading it. At the moment, I'll sort of mention while I'm here, I'm currently reading Circe, which is all about Greek myth and it's very, very specific to Greek gods and goddesses. But I'll talk more about that probably at the end. And yeah, so the Winter Song, very, very different take on it. It's actually about two sisters, and I'd not long read Caraval before that, so it kind of reminded me of that one. I've got that in my pile as well. I'll talk about that eventually. But Winter Song was a just amazing book. It's one of my favourite books of all time. I think it was so well written. She's basically this character called Liesel is dragged underground by the Goblin King, who's kind of sought her out since she was a child. That sounds really, really bad, but it's more like they were kids together and they not grew up together, but they there's like this very, very beginning scene where they're in the woods together as children, and then it's later on when she's like sort of teenager age that he finally seeks her out, and he takes her underground and she feels trapped to be there, but the world that comes through in this book is just amazing. It's like all just completely underground. It's very earthy, like really, really good imagery. The whole story really, really well written. There's the whole romance between her and the Goblin King, and his like constant detachment, but then there are times when he gets more like closer to her again, and then they become detached again. He's very, very like complex character, I suppose, but really, really good story guys, and really worth the read. Definitely one of my favourite books of all time. Yeah, she's got this big thing behind her sister's disappearance, and she has to go and find her, but then she eventually, giving some spoilers away, ends up becoming the Goblin Queen. But yeah, you have to read it to understand. It's really, really good. And look how beautiful the cover is. It's so pretty. So that's the first one, guys. The next one is one that I read right at the beginning of the year, called Evolution by Terry Terry. Terry Terry is one of my favourite authors now, probably maybe my favourite author, if I could pick one. She actually went to my uni, and she lives somewhere near me, in Buckinghamshire sort of area. I saw her once, outside my old shop, which was really strange. I sort of recognised her picture and I was probably staring a little bit too long, but yeah, I love her stories. I've read her Slated series, her Mind Game series, and this is her Contagion series. Contagion is the first one, and then Deception follows it, and then we have Evolution, which is just amazing. The whole story, this story follows Shay and Kai when, from the beginning of the series, there's like this worldwide epidemic. This boy's sister goes missing, so he has to try and seek out what's happened to her. But then this other character, Shay, is involved, and it's narrated partly by Callie, who's the girl that goes missing. Then it's narrated by Shay. It's based mostly in Scotland, so the characters are travelling around Scotland, and I know that Terry, by her Instagram, has gone to a lot of different places in Scotland, so she's probably got her research from all of them. I also went to her Milton Keynes literature festival, the very first one last year, and she did a talk about her books there as well. That was really cool. I was actually going to Scotland that night, which is really strange, but she was talking about how she went to Scotland and she got most of her inspiration for her books from there, because a lot of them are actually based there. But Scotland is beautiful and a lot of people like to inspire their books on Scotland. But yeah, this one's really, really good read. You have to obviously read from the beginning of the series. But I think this is one of my favourite series of all time, and generally just love Terry. It's got like so many thriller elements to it. It's also got the big worldwide things. There's lots and lots of epic kind of deaths. There's murders that happen. There's romance. I wasn't so keen on the romance in this sort of story towards the end of it. I loved the whole thing between Kai and Shay, but then later on things started getting a bit weird when it started involved, like they found out that there's more connections between them, and I found it really, really strange. Again, you have to kind of read it to understand, but I found the romance a bit strange after that. But again, really, really good series. I definitely love her Slated series, so definitely check that one out as well, guys. But again, yeah, another really, really good YA thriller series, basically. A lot of the books I read are YA, guys. I think all of them are, but that's what I read, YA fantasy sort of thing. Yeah, so give that one a try, guys. Next one I've got is The Surface Breaks from The Little Mermaid by Louise O'Neill. This one is brilliant, guys. It is a complete amazing retelling of The Little Mermaid. It's so vividly described. Like I love this cover as well, guys. But it's so vividly described. I could see all the characters. I could see her perspective. I loved the bits where she was taken up. She goes deeper down and talks to the Sea Queen, and then later on has to go and go above the water basically and meets with the prince, and it's just like the whole Little Mermaid story, like set into, as you'd imagine it, like a live action film but in your own head, if that makes sense. It's just really, really well done, and there's a feminist twist on it, so the ending is different, and I won't spoil it for you, but definitely try this one out, guys. Hi guys, so my next one is The Dark Queen by Josephine Boyce. Again, another big fantasy YA story. This one I found a little bit slow at times, but that's probably because there's so much to this big world, and it's definitely big high fantasy, and I found those ones quite difficult to read at times. I don't know why, I just struggle to get through them sometimes, but that's not necessarily anything about the story. I was definitely enjoying it, and she is a bit of a badass character, this Amoria. I actually bought this one directly from the author at Yelp, but really enjoyed it. This is I guess this is an art copy because they were selling them at Yelp. Hasn't even got the publisher's thingy-majiggy on it, but yeah. Basically it's about a girl or a woman who has to cover her face because she's got this magical, like, she's the descendant of a goddess basically, and this magic is in her face, and anyone who looks at her face will be like completely have to do her bidding or do everything she says because they're so in love with her beauty. And when she's a child, she's forced to use this. Well, not a child, but like a younger girl. They abuse it basically, and and she's traumatized. And later on, she kind of grows up covering her face. When she becomes queen, so she's known as the Dark Queen. She's wearing all of these big things. She's trying to get justice on the church. That's kind of taken over her queendom basically, because they are the ones that did this abuse to her basically, or abused the power that she has, when she didn't really have any choice against it. But she's forced to become queen, and she's trying to navigate her way through this war, the war against the Dylarian church basically. It says, when the Dylarian church gains too much power, Amaria takes matters into her own hands and enacts a violent justice. But the church leaders are not the only ones who have their eyes on controlling their queendom. A dark, malevolent force has entered her land that threatens her people and those she loves the most. There's also lots of magic involved in a big war between her and other kingdoms. And so yeah, there's lots to it, guys. It's quite a chunky book as well. Not massively, but quite big. But really, really good. I love her as a character. I thought there was times when it was like questioning her morality. So people would say to her like, you're being too harsh, or it just, yeah, you'll see what I mean when you read it, but it depends on her actions and everything. But it's like kind of trying to intercept or evaluate, basically analyse her own abilities and her morality, and I love it when that happens to the characters because not every character is too good or too bad, and I love writing that in my own books, and I also love reading it when that happens. So it just makes them more complex, more like rounded characters, and more relatable or likeable or unlikable. But yeah, I really, really like this one, guys. Definitely worth checking it out. Now, this one is one of my big favourites of this year. Everyone will probably have known of this book. I heard something about it coming out as a film. It's called Children of Blood and Bone by Tommy Adeyemi. I'm sorry if I said that name wrong. I follow her on Instagram, so I see all her posts now, and I know she's writing the sequel to this one. And I saw something about it coming out as like a film or a Netflix thing, but it's amazing, guys. If you love African black magic or African tribal settings or anything like that, this is the book you need to check out. It's kind of like mixed with the normal like castles and royal fantasy sort of thing, where where she falls in love with the prince basically, but her mother was killed along with the mothers of many other people, young people just like her, who had these powerful dark magic, and they were killed for it by the leaders basically of their country. On the back of it says, "They killed my mother, they took our magic, they tried to bury us, now we rise." And there's this runaway princess basically, who the main character actually ends up finding, and then she's thrown onto this big like journey with her, and they're going against her, the ways that they work, and it's complex, but it's really, really, really well done. I absolutely loved it. It was pacey, quick, The characters were really likeable. I think some of the like the romances, like two of them, like there was one of them wasn't really necessary, but in my opinion, but I did like reading them and I enjoyed getting to know the characters as they were. But yeah, definitely one of my favourites, guys. Check it out if you haven't already, or let me know what you think of it down below. I would love to know. Another one I've got, guys, is Grace and Fury by Tracy Bangerhart. Really small book, but really, really good. There's these two sisters, and they are forced. One of them is forced to go to this like island and fight with all these other girls. Like a fight to the death sort of thing. A little bit of Hunger Games, kind of not. But, and then the other one is forced to stay in the palace and become a Grace. But so these Graces are like the nobles relating to the palace. I'll read you a bit of the blurb. In a world where women have no rights, sisters Serena and Naomi face very different fates. One in the palace, the other on an island prison, where women must fight to survive. Serena has spent her whole life preparing to become a Grace, selected to stand by the heir to the throne as a shining example of the perfect woman. But her headstrong and rebellious younger sister has a dangerous secret, and one wrong move could cost both sisters everything. Can Serena fight, and will Naomi win? Now this one is very, very much a feminist story. Women aren't allowed to read or write or anything. They have to, stand by their husbands, be confined to that kind of that life, like serving a man, basically. There's a lot of YA fantasy does nowadays, which is really, really good. Serena and Naomi are very, very different people. Like, Naomi is very quiet and shy and reserved and just wants to be her sister's handmaiden, which is why they end up at the castle. But Serena wants to be a Grace. Sorry, my camera just decided to cut off there because of storage space. But yeah, Serena has always wanted to be a Grace since she was quite small, and Naomi is completely different. She's always wanted to be her sister's handmaiden, so they want to make their family, give their family a better life, basically, because their families will always be cared for if they become a Grace in the palace. And Naomi makes a mistake. She ends up meeting the prince, and she's stolen a book, and she's not supposed to have it because they're not supposed to read, and she ends up being changed. It turns around so that she becomes the Grace by surprise, because Naomi thinks she's going to be punished when really she's actually thrown into this whole big game. So that's basically the premise, guys. Yeah, beautiful cover yet again. Really, really good story. Like, there's lots of really sad bits where Serena goes to the island and they've all got to fight, but she begets a lot of friendships, and then she meets someone else there that she has like a romantic interest with, and yeah, it's just like, it's a feminist story. It's got a lot of character growth, and just big fantasy settings, but kind of like fantasy at the same time. It's not like high fantasy, but definitely a good one. Read so many good books this year, guys. Okay, now another one which is amazing is Eve of Man. I actually attended their talk at Yauk, and where they were talking about the story, and actually I hadn't read it yet, but that kind of gave me a really good perspective on it. It's quite a simple premise, but really clever at the same time. It's I'll read you what it says on the back. It's quite brief. It says, against all odds, she survived. The first girl born in 50 years. They called her Eve. Now this one is written by Tom and Giovanna Fletcher. Big well-known book, because they obviously are quite well-known authors. Giovanna was a women's fiction sort of writer before, and Tom wrote children's fiction. So I don't think they'd written any YA together, but I absolutely love this story. I saw some like reviews where people thought it wasn't that bad, like well written, but I loved it. I thought it was really pacey. I loved the characterization. I loved how unique the world is. I mean, Eve is like the celebrity because she's the only girl born in 50 years. She's a bit of Rapunzel, as they quote. I quote. They said that in their talk. They also said that Tom wrote all of the main male character Bram's points of view, and Giovanna wrote Eve's points of view, which I think was well done because it gives the character voice makes them a bit more different, I suppose. Bram and Eve meet through like this robotic sort of form where Eve is supposed to tell her carers basically how she feels about her situation, and she's going to be forced to marry someone and basically bear children, so that they can start having girls again and start hopefully trying to change the world basically. So she's a bit of a celebrity but locked away and protected, and there are assassinations and things like that from this big organisation that don't like what's happening here, and they try and fight against it. And yeah, there's a lot of action, guys, a lot of trauma for Eve. There's so much in it packed into it, but yeah. So Bram meets Eve through like this robotic form that basically she appears to Eve as like a friend, a robot, but a friend that she can talk to, called Holly. And she's got these 3 people that she can tell they're different by the eyes, and she knows the one that's Bram, and she becomes close to Bram, and that's how they realise that she doesn't want to be part of this big scheme, and she tries to fight against it. And yeah, just I can't imagine being in that situation. I don't know what I would do. But again, guys, another brilliant book, and one I really, really loved. Okay, so I have 2 here. I have Caraval and Legendary by Stephanie Garber. If anyone hasn't read these guys, you should definitely read them because they are amazing. The world building for a start is great. Like, there's it's fantasy, it's definitely fantasy, but it's quirky fantasy. It's like there's these 2 girls, sisters, called Scarlett and Tella, who have always been very close, and they've always loved this Caraval, which is this big event that happens, like a parade that happens every year. And they've always wanted to be involved, but it's a game that's not really a game, and people can apply to participate in it, and when they eventually go there, they find out there's a lot more to it, and their mother has been missing for some time, and there's big twists and turns as to where she is, and nothing seems real to the main character Scarlett, who's got to travel there because her sister was taken away, kidnapped by Legend, the show's mastermind organizer. So she's been told that everything that happens during Caraval is an elaborate performance, but she quickly becomes entangled in a dangerous game of love, magic and heartbreak. And real or not, she must find Tella before the game is over and her sister disappears forever. So she's forced to go through this big quirky parade, trying to find her sister, and again it all seems like a game, but then it doesn't, and it's complicated, guys. It's hard to explain, but it's really, really good to read. It's really, really good. I remember reading this I think I actually bought this first book in Cyprus when I went on holiday, in a shop there that had a few books that I actually recognised. The book before Oblivion, I think I bought that one there. I saw that there. I don't think I bought it there. I also saw the 50 Shades of Grey books. But this one, yeah, is amazing, and the sequel is equally amazing. The sequel goes to the castle, again, where legend is still unknown. You don't know who this main guy is. People are sort of like trying to work out who he is by through the people they meet, but nothing seems real, so you don't know what's going on the whole time, and it's just really, really well done, guys. Really good series. I assume there will be more, but I'd like to think there'll be more because they're really, really good. And the last one I'm going to talk about, guys, I've still got the sticker on there, is a book I also actually read while I was in Cyprus. It's the one I was reading most of the time I was there. I read it more quickly than another book I've read. But it's YA fantasy yet again. It says, the queen you're meant to be, the land you're meant to save, the throne you're meant to claim. Theodosia was 6 when her mother, the Fire Queen, was murdered before her eyes. 10 years later, Theo has learned to survive under the relentless abuse of the invading Kaiser and is caught as the ridiculed Ash Princess. But when the Kaiser denies her last hope of rescue, Theo vows revenge. Forced to make impossible choices and unable to trust even those who are on her side, Theo will have to decide how far she's willing to go to save her people and how much of herself she's willing to sacrifice to become queen. So she's basically being held in the castle with this Kaiser as his Ash Princess, who he can manipulate and play with as much as he likes because he has her under his control. At one point I think she actually wears like an ash crown and she's punished in front of everybody, like whipped, I think. It's so good, guys. It's one of my favourites. Like I said, I read it so quickly. It's hard to explain, but it's really, really good. I don't do that many book talks because I find it quite hard to actually describe some of the books I read, but I just get so like stuck into them at the same time that I remember them even like months afterwards. But yeah, there's a point at the beginning where she meets her father, and it's really sad because she has to. Well, she's forced to kill him, I think. And it's really sad. A lot of this book actually inspires me for my current project, Goldress, because my main character is living underneath the Emperor's like hand, basically as his toy. So a lot of the books I read do inspire my writing, but I can't tell you which one's my favourite out of all of those guys. They're all just amazing, and I would love to see what you'd think. So if you do ever read them, feel free to drop a comment and let me know what you thought of them. I tried to be as vivid talking about them as I can. Some of them I read quite a while ago, and I've read so many since then. So, but yeah, I just love how there's like this like feminist sort of thing in YA now, where women are obviously becoming a lot stronger. It's the same in in films and everything as well. But there's a common theme for women and girls becoming stronger and sort of taking back the power, has been taken away a lot of the time. Inequality. I just think it's really good. It's nice to see it coming out in the stories we read now. I just love getting really, really engrossed into big stories like those. I love meeting so many different characters, going to so many different worlds, and they all inspire my own writing as well. But yeah, that was my fave books of 2018 video, guys. Feel free to let me know, like I said, if you've read any of those books, what you thought of them. Comment down below, and let me know if you want me to do any other similar videos. I was thinking of doing a worst books of 2018 video, but I'm not sure about that one because a lot of the books I've read this year have been amazing. And I don't have that many that really disappointed me this year. But if I think of anything, I will do a video, and I think I will probably try and do a 2019 goals video as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time in another video. And Happy New Year! Bye!